Okay, so let's try to understand the basic interface. So we have this main menu right here, and we also have the sub menu here. So the main menu will stay the same, but the sub menu will change based on your module. So by default, will be in the modeling. So with the modeling, we will have this mesh, edit mesh tool, or this tool that will change based on your modeling module. If I'm doing animation, then you can see those are the animation modules right here. If I'm doing VFX, then this will be the module for VFX. Okay. Now the second line here is your status bar. The status bar contains your new scene, open scene, save scene, redo, undo, and your hierarchy, your object mode, your component mode. And this is some of your components. By default, this small window is closed. You can click on this triangle to expand those selected elements. You have your snapping to grid, snapping to points, and this one snap to curve. You got your symmetry section here. This is our rendering menu, rendering setting here for turn your 3D object into a 2D images. This blue ball here is our beauty department. It's called Hypershade. So the Hypershade allow you to create basic material and create texture and assign to the geometry. Let's bring out our, here is our UI. Okay, so UI, we have the menu set. Okay, this is different menu set. And this is the menu on the top. You have the status line. You have the shelf. The shelf is available to you to set up customized tool so that can quickly access with a single click. You can set up shelf to support different workflow. So this is the shelf. So let me show you where the shelf is. This is the shelf right here. So the shelf, we have the curve and surface. We have the polygon modeling. We have the sculpting, rigging, animation, rendering, FX. Okay, a bunch of different collection of tools in a way. So in this shelf, on the polygon modeling, I can click on these spheres right here. Now, by default, you might be in this perspective view here. Okay, so this is the default window. And when you are in this shell, when I click on polygon modeling, then there is a polygon geometry. And on the left-hand side, we have this so-called toolbox. So the first one is for selecting. The fourth one is for move. And the fifth one is for rotate. The sixth one is for scale. So with the move tool, I can go ahead and drag. So by default, for the move, usually this one is selected, that's for red. And it was red, but selected, now it'll be highlighted as yellow. So the green one is y-axis. The red one is x-axis. The blue one is a z-axis. So if I drag on the move tool, drag to the right, I'm moving on the x direction. That's positive x direction. That's why you can see the translate x is in the positive value. If I drag it on the green arrow, I'm moving on positive y direction and positive z direction. Okay, so by default, we are at 0, 0, 0. If you don't know where I am, I'm looking at the channel box layout right here. Okay. We can also work with rotation. So if I choose rotation, scale. So with a scale, if I drag the center yellow box, that is a uniform scale. If I drag on a green box, that is for non-uniform scale. So if I want to rotate this object, I can use the rotation tool. So with the rotation tool, I can use my thumb to indicating where the rotation axis is. So if my thumb is pointing this way, that will be positive z-axis. So if I rotate towards with my counterclockwise direction, that will be rotation on positive degree. If I rotate it on a clockwise direction, that will be negative degree. Okay. So this is rotation on x-axis. The positive z is this way. So you can rotate it this way or that way. If you want to rotate on y-axis, you can see y is pointing up, so we can rotate on a green circle. If I'm rotating on x direction, positive x is this way, so this will be the positive x direction. This will be the negative x direction. All right, so that is a basic geometry, one more time, with translate, rotate, and scale. Okay, now on your upper right hand corner, what we have here is your workspace. So we have Maya Classic Workspace or Standard Workspace. A lot of time we are using the Classic. So the Classic here, you also have our modeling tool, the regular tool, our geometry attribute editor, channel box that indicating your translate, rotation, and scale attribute. We also have this is the time slider for keyframe animation. In this class, we're not really doing animation, so I might not talk about this. But here we have our quick layout. So the first one is our perspective view. The second one is for our forward view, which is our orthographic top, front, side, and perspective. Okay, and then the third one might be two panels side by side, and this one might be outliner. So most of the time we stay with this forward view or the perspective view. Okay, so with the perspective view, you can navigate a window by using the combination of keys. So with the Alt key, press the Alt key, press the left mouse button, and I rotate, drag. I can tumble the view. If I hold on to Alt key, middle mouse button, I'm tracking the view. If I press Alt key, right mouse button, that's for dolly. One more time. So the navigation is using a combination of Alt key plus your left, middle, and right mouse button for tumble the view, track the view, or dolly. If you cannot memorize that, you can go to View, Camera Tools. You can tear off this menu by click on these two dotted line. You can use the Tumble tool, Track tool, and Dolly tool. Okay, all right. You can also use spacebar. Tap on the spacebar really fast. So tap on the spacebar. You can see I'm going from the one view to the four view. Let me do this four. I like my perspective there. Okay, so say if I move my top view here, if I move my mouse to the top view, tap on the spacebar, you can see you will maximize the top view. If I put my mouse on the side, tap on the spacebar, it will expand this view. Okay, so that is good for workflow. I can also create a focus, frame the object by selecting the geometry, press F for focus view, and that will give me a focus view. So for example, if the object is far, select the geometry, press F, that will bring it right in front of the camera. So that's for focus view. All right, now let me quickly go over the animation just a little bit, since this is part of the basic interface. So in Maya, we use these so-called frames. So in a film or in videos, film is 24 frames per second, video is 30 frames per second. So right now we're using the film speed. So for 200 frames, you roughly have about maybe like 8 seconds or so. So we can go ahead and try to create a keyframe animation on this. So for example, at frame 1, I will move this object over here, and I can create a keyframe. This keyframe means it will record this object's transformation in this specific point in time. So select the object. I'm in frame 1. Press S to set a key. Okay, S is a shortcut for setting key. Go to the end of the timeline. You can, it might be 200, it might be 120. Then I will move this object over. Press S to set another key. So now if I play back the animation, you can see this object is now moving. So there's an interpolation of value of position A and position B, and then the machine is interpolate for each increment frame is gonna moving with a slight different distance. Okay, but this is not an animation class, so we're not gonna go deeper with that, but our goal is focus on modeling. All right, let's continue. Okay, so double check, make sure I'm recording. Okay, so let's see. So syllabus, student, project overview. Okay, so UI origin. So we do have an origin which is at 0, 0, 0, and we have also graphic versus perspective. You know what? I'm gonna bring out this PDF file. It's called AutoMaya.pdf file right here. So let's go ahead and bring this one out. Open in Acrobat. So this PDF file is from Maya Learning Personal Learning Edition. So it got some interesting like fundamental knowledge in there. So I'm gonna go ahead and take a look at that. So let's see, there's some general information. Okay, I mean, you can see here, there's a animation pipeline, there's modeling, animation, rendering, right? So you first generate your models, then you have your character, then you can move on to do the animation, which is keyframing. You also apply material and texture, you apply lights and camera, you can put some effects, and then you are rendering and compositing. So animating in Maya is pretty much setting keyframe, right? So when you set a key in frame 1 to frame 16 to frame 25 and all that, and then the object will move through the timeline. Let's see, continue. Okay, time and space. This is page 16, but until you have the Blackboard shell, then you can open the AutoMaya, the PDF file. So I'm looking at 3D space. So every day you come into contact with three-dimensional object in space, you have learned how to recognize and work with three-dimension in your daily routine. Okay, so we have 2-dimension and 3-dimension. And here we have XYZ coordinate space. Maya is using Cartesian coordinate system. So we use the XYZ. Now, the axis indicator is x-axis is red, y-axis is green, z-axis is blue. So that point to positive x, positive y, positive z. Maya is using the y-up world. 3D Max using the z-up world. We can always change that if you wanted to. In perspective, there's a ground grid of 24 by 24 units. Okay, so here is our view, our default view. So the view will be very similar to AutoCAD or maybe to SolidWorks, where you got your drafting window, you got your top, front, and side view. Those are considered orthographic projection, orthographic view. While perspective view can help you compose a shot, it is not always the ideal method for modeling and animating objects. Therefore, an orthographic view lets you analyze your scene using parallel projection of only 2 axes at a time. Using these views, you can more accurately determine how an object is positioned. Most 3D animators find themselves using perspective view to compose a shot, while orthographic views offer a place to view the scene in a more analytical manner. So top, front, and side view allow you for more of a precise modeling and drafting. The perspective view right here is mainly for a composition, okay? So here's the time. I'm not going to spend too much time on this time because that is more for animation, but you can see there's a in between. And when you create a keyframe animation, you will generate this curve. So those of you who missed this morning's class and you are in both of the class, go back and review the part where I'm doing the animation, which I'm still need to post the video yet. All right, let's continue. So these are some of the interface stuff. Okay, here is the part on navigation. Okay, so with this navigation, you can do tumble, you can do track, you can do dolly. So when you do tumble, you want to Alt key plus a left mouse button. Track is Alt key with middle mouse. Dolly is Alt key with a right mouse button. There are different shading mode. Number 4 will give you wireframe. Number 5 will give you smooth shading mode. Okay, so let's try that inside of Maya. If I am number 4 mode, I'm looking at wireframe. If I'm press number 5, I'll be in shading mode. Okay, number 4, wireframe. Number 5, shading mode. Now, if I go ahead and bring out, say a cube, as a cube, right? So if I select this, you can use the right mouse marking menu, right mouse click. Say I'm in object mode. I'll make it bigger. So this is the object looks like. By default, we are in number 1 mode. Okay, number 1 is your low poly mode. Number 2 will give you a low poly cage mode and a smooth preview. Number 3 is going to give you the smooth preview. So what does that mean by smooth preview? That means that inside a mesh, there's this thing called smooth. So this is what this object looks like, right? So let me duplicate this. Control D to duplicate and move it to the side. So if I go ahead and mesh smooth once, and then I can continue to smooth it 3 times. So this is what happens when you subdivide and subdivide and subdivide, and eventually becomes something like this, nice and rounded. Or if you want to work on your low polygon geometry, but you want to preview to kind of get an idea of what it will looks like when I smooth it. So this is the preview part. So I can press hotkey 3. So the hotkey 3 doesn't necessarily smooth it yet. It just gives you a preview, give you some basic idea what it will looks like. You still look like number 1 mode. Your actual form is at this low poly form. And then this is number 2 is your low poly form with smooth preview. Number 3 is the actual smooth preview. Number 4 is your wireframe mode. Number 5 is the shading mode. Now there's also number 6 is for preview of the texture map if we have texture map. Number 7 is a preview of the lighting. Okay, so those are some of the basic shortcut for that. All right, so some of the shading options. Their important concept we need to understand is the object and component. Is all of this in the PDF file? Yes, this is a PDF file, and the PDF file, it is in we are in week 1 now, okay? So I'm looking at the artomaya.pdf file right here. So I'm looking at the artomaya.pdf file. This is page 28. So I believe I have some reading assignment for you. I believe I want you to read page 16, 17, 24, 26, 27, 28, and 29. Okay, those might be the things that I just talked about, but it would be great for you to review. Okay. All right, so let's see. So this is page 28, objects and component. You can transform object in Maya by selecting objects and their components. Selection mask allow you the flexibility to select only the items you want in a scene. This mask, what time is it? 3:32. Okay. So where am I? Okay, so the mask are grouped into 3 categories: hierarchy, object type, component type selection. So object type. So there are different object type. Surface is one, curve is one, dynamic dual object type. There are component type. Components are like points, edges, faces, pivot point, things like that. So if you think of this as your selection mask, think of this hierarchy as a group mode. Object is the object mode. Component are like faces, points, vertices, edges. Okay. So in a hierarchy, you can select the group. In the object mode, you can select the surface. That's mainly what we're doing is selecting the surface or curve. In a component mode, we'll select points, edges, face, things like that. So let me give you a quick example here. So let me get rid of this. So for example, I create a spheres. Press F for focus view. Okay, so with these polygon primitive spheres, if I go ahead and move it, I'm moving as an object mode. So this is your selection mask. This is the object mode. Okay. The hierarchy is mainly dealing with the grouping. Say if I have a group object of 3 different objects, then I can use the group to select it. But for now, I think it's important for you to understand the concept of the object and component. So this is the object mode. I move as a 1. Now you can see there's a value here. So which is this? Where are this value for? Is it for this point or this point or this point? These values are representation of the pivot point. In this case, it's a center point, but not necessary. It's actually called the pivot point. Pivot point. Now, sometimes this pivot point by default might be in the center, but I can easily change this pivot point to here. So if I press D key, D as a dog. So if I press D key and I'm in a translation mode, I can change my pivot point over here. Okay, so now if I go ahead and move, so these pivot points translation will become relevant, okay, because right now the pivot point is now pretty far up. So right now the pivot point is offset of this part plus this value in here. So this is not all that accurate. But anyway, so a lot of time your pivot point is the position and all that is really based on this new pivot. So if I go ahead and rotate this, you can see now the behavior looks very different. If I scale this, you see that pivot is offset. It's very different from the geometry. Before it was in the center, but that's just because it's a default. You can change pivot point to anywhere you want. Okay. All right. So that's important. We need to understand that. Now let's talk about component. There are different components. If you go to the component mode, the first component is for this polygon geometry is vertex. So the vertex is those dots. So I can select some of this purple dot, I can move it. So if I'm creating a spike, I can move it like this. So when you're in a component mode, you can select those points and move. I can select the edges and move. I can select the face. I can delete them. So I'll punch a hole like that. Or I can select the face and I can move. I can select multiple face. Hold on the shift key. I can move. I can scale it. Okay, so that is with the component mode. One more time. So right now I'll create a cube. That might be easier. So I'll choose a cube. I can make it bigger. Okay. So by default, we are in the object mode. So when you are in the object mode, you will scale, you will move, translate, rotate based on where the pivot point is. Okay. Just a lot of time by default, when you create a primitive, Maya put a pivot point in the origin, but you can always change the pivot point to wherever you want. Now, if I go to the component mode, in the component mode, the very first component is vertex. Okay, so we're talking about polygon geometry. In Maya, there are different geometry, nerves and polygon. Right now, we'll focus on polygon geometry. So for the polygon geometry, this component is called vertex. So it's a vertex, I can go ahead and move it. Move this and that. Okay, so that's moving the vertex mode. I can go ahead and move the face. So if I'm in the face mode, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. The fourth one, select that face. I can go ahead and move it up and down, up and down. Take that face, go this way. I can scale that face like so. I can select the edges. You can use this component mode here. You can use the right mouse marking menu, right mouse click, choose edges, select the edges, and you can scale them. You can rotate them. Okay. So this is our basic transformation and manipulating on a component mode. All right. So inside of Maya, so we kind of briefly talk about pivot, okay? And there are different primitive options. I do want to talk about it. Then this is more of a homework for you guys to kind of review. And I think our class really got messed up with this Blackboard shelf thingy, so I apologize for that. So let's continue. So let's talk about primitive options, okay? So primitive options. If I create a polygon primitive, I can create a spheres. Now, there's the input options right here. I can change the radius here. Now I can type in number. Maybe I'll change my radius to 3. Or maybe I'll change my radius to 0.5. Okay, so you can change your radius here. How about my subdivision axis and subdivision height? How about I change that to 5, 5, 5. And press enter. So look at these spheres. It looks very different, isn't it? How about we change that to 4 and 4? How about we change this one to 2? I guess the most we can do is 3 because they won't let me do 2. How about this one? 2. So this is start from a sphere. It's not quite a sphere, but this is a 3 by 3 sphere. Interesting, huh? Okay, so that is something you can choose to customize it. Okay, one more time. Go to create. Now we have the shelf here. The shelf here, oh, this is the 3D logo. Okay, so 3D logo, get rid of that. So create, there's the nerve primitive, there's a polygon primitive. So right now I'm looking at a polygon primitive. We have the spheres. Now earlier I created and I went to channel box to change the value, or I can go to the channel box, I mean the option box right here, and I can change my radius here. I can change my options here and create. And you can see that is one way of creating your primitive, okay, using the option box. Now, if you don't like it, you can always reset a setting and then create it again and then move it out, because right now the spheres are inside. right? Because by default, they are in the origin. So you're not going to see it if you have object outside. Another way you can see it is by pressing 4. Now you're in a wireframe, so you can see inside. So your first assignment is creating a snowman. You might have hard time seeing a snowman if the objects are inside of one another. Then you need to go to the wireframe mode. Okay, so that is that. So that is with polygon primitive spheres. How about nerve geometry? Let's take a look at nerve geometry. Nerves are a bit more complicated. It is using the Bayesian curve algorithm to generate surface. The full term is non-uniform rational B-spline. Okay, so it's a bit more challenge. Usually the nerve primitive or the nerve geometry are used for visualization for, say, car manufacturing or for product visualization, more sophisticated design curvature surfaces. Okay, if you're doing it for gaming, you usually don't dealing with nerve geometry because the game engine only draw polygon triangles. Okay, so here with the nerve geometry, if I create a spheres, okay, I'm going to go ahead and bring on my channel box, and you can see under the input, I will highlight make nerve sphere 1. So this is my construction option, construction history. So you can see for my nerve spheres, my radius 1, by default, I'll press 3. And you see I'm changing my radius. I can change my start angle and end angle. Right now, it started at 0. It finished at 360. What if I wanted to finish at, how about 180? Let's type in 180. Okay, so if I do 180, then I got a half sphere. Okay, so let's change that to 360. Now by default for the nerve geometry, the degree is cubic. That's why it's nice and rounded. If we change that to linear, you can see it have that faceted look. Okay, if I change my spans to 3, section to 3, you can see it create more of a polygon type of a geometry. Okay, so you can change your radius, you can change your start and sweep angle, you can change your linear degree and A by 4 or something. So that is your nerve geometry right here. Now let's talk about different component. For the nerve component, if I right mouse click, choose control vertices. So the nerve component is different from polygon components. If I create another polygon primitive, and I'll put it side by side to show you. Okay, so the nerve geometry, if I right mouse click, you can see the components are called control vertices, isoform, okay, hole. For my polygon geometry, I have vertex, faces, edges, UV. Okay, so it's slightly different components. So for polygon geometry, if I select the vertex and I move it, you see that the results are really sharp. If I select my my nerve geometry, right mouse click, choose control vertices, and move it. See how it has more of a curvature shape to it? Okay, so what's going on with the nerve geometry? Basically, behind the scene, the software is taking the coordinate of this point, coordinate of that point, and this point, and plug it into an algorithm, and then draw this geometry for you. So you don't need a lot of points to define this shape. With polygon geometry, what you see is what you get. You move each vertex to where it's supposed to be, and then Maya just draw it. There's no algorithm involved. You just move wherever you want this to be. That's why we don't see this kind of geometry in game. Okay, so one more time. Object mode, component mode. In the component mode, we have vertex, we have edges, we have faces. And you can select those components. You can move, you can rotate and select and translate it. With nerve geometry, if you go to the component mode, you can see this one is for control vertex and this one is for hole. So I can select the hole and I can move as one if I wanted to. I can move it and shape it. Okay. All right. So that's the really basic of polygon and nerve geometry. So sometimes you might get confused of component and object. Just try to stay in object if you can. You can switch between object and component by pressing hotkey FA. Okay, FA will toggle between objects and component. There's a lot of shortcuts and all that, and I completely understand. Okay, so I do have a couple video for you. I hope it's not too advanced. If you feel it's too much, you can watch this next week. So here I have the nerve primitive tutorial. This one is a Vimeo, and I don't think this one needs passwords. About 20 minutes. I recorded this a long time ago. Oh, interactive creation. Okay. But this one I show you how to create a basic primitive. You don't ever use nerve cube, it is evil. And in this one, I'm showing you how to create like a head for creating the head. And here I'm showing you with torus in nerve. It's also pretty cool to play with. Okay, and here I'm showing you how to create this extrusion with curve. All right, so that one. And then we have a polygon primitive tutorial. So this one is a little advanced that I'm going to cover next week as well. So here I'm showing you how to create a polygon primitive, and we can choose to cut more subdivision. I show you how to create extrusions. I show you how to extrude the faces for the finger. Okay, so we'll definitely talk about this next week, and we'll also experiment with different primitive as well. So I'm going to squeeze one more primitive in here because I do think they are fun. And let's go ahead and do helix. Okay, so we'll do helix here. Create polygon primitive helix. There it is. So with the helix, I can go ahead and enable my option in my input. So input poly helix 1. Let's highlight the height because I want it to be tall enough. So highlight height. Okay, so that's pretty tall. Then we can, and you can always press A to frame all of it. Okay, now coils. So I can make the coils a lot more. That's 20 coils. That looks like the telephone cord. We can change the width. Change this way. That's pretty cool. That might turn into a spring. And we can change the subdivision axis and things like that. You can change the radius here. So right now it's pretty thick or thinner. That's pretty thin. You can type in a value if you're not happy with it. So maybe I'll change to 0.02. Oh, that's too small. Maybe 0.2. There we go. Okay, so you can use this primitive to create some basic construction here. So experiment with different primitive. So in the nerve geometry, there's spheres, cube. Again, cube is evil. Don't use nerve cube, okay? But you can play with cylinder, cone, plane, torus. With polygon primitive, we have sphere, cube, cylinder, cone, torus, plane, disc. Platonic solid is also pretty interesting. Pyramid is interesting. Prism is also pretty interesting. There is pipe, helix we just did. There's a gear, soccer ball, super ellipse, cervical harmonics, ultra shape. Let's take a look what is ultra shape. So this is ultra shape, okay? Not quite sure how ultra it is yet. So let's go ahead and bring out the ultra shape. So let's change The harmonies doesn't do that much. Let's change the ellipse one, 0, ultra. Okay, well, that is pretty cool. So look at this one. Just make a pumpkin for you. That's pretty interesting. And ultra 2, ultra 1. Ooh, that's like a nice pumpkin. And ultra 2, ultra 3, ultra 4. Let's see, harmonic. Yeah, this is some interesting shape. I didn't really quite sure what this is about. So, all right. Oh, that's cool shape. Now let's go ahead and try different one. So create polygon primitive. Let's try super eclipse. So super eclipse, let's try. Oh, did I just do the same one? Oh, maybe I already did the same one. So create polygon. No, that was ultra shape I did before. So now let's try super eclipse. See what does this one do.